Good morning. It is Brian. We are back on the Art of Startup War. Again, this is an interview with a company, a startup that we have invested in. Why do we invest in this startup? Because we believe they're going to make us a ton of money. They're also going to save the world, make it a better place, make us happier with dealing with things like dentists, which is something I've got a really specific thing about. So this is going to be even more interesting for me. But the area the company are in are such a big area. It is such a big need and such a big problem, which nobody has any solution for right now, that we, Expert Dojo, believe that the investment is a phenomenal investment. The objective of today is for other investors, wannabe investors, people who have already invested in early stage startups, to listen to the interview, look at the companies and say, do we believe that, number one, Expert Dojo are right? Because Expert Dojo are not promoting, we invested our money. So we're going to talk you through our journey. And then number two, is this a good investment for yourself? So you make all of those decisions yourselves. We're not telling you to, we're not telling you not to. We're just telling you we're pretty damn happy that we did. Okay, now, so let's start off with talking to Josh and Phil. They deal with an area which, seriously, it just has baffled me for years. I never have understood in all my time. And I have lived in so many countries around the world, and I've never understood why nobody has ever fixed this. If something happens to me and my leg gets chopped off, or my heart has got a problem, or my lungs have got a problem, or my kidney's got a problem, I have insurance. Like, that's what my insurance is for. Now, we can argue about, a Kaiser insurance versus an Oscar insurance versus all of the other things. And within my healthcare, it is there. I never, ever understood why dental had no solution. And it seems like there's no solution anywhere. It seemed like the only solution prior to Promptus was just put some money in your bank account and then hopefully that'll cover you in the future. And that's not insurance, that's praying. And that's not going to do you much good when you get there. So I loved it when Genevieve, who heads our healthcare accelerator, came to me and said, we have got the most incredible company you've ever seen. We have got founders that are so driven they make me look boring. We have a product which is so necessary in the market that it is going to break through massively, and it already is. We have a user experience and a fit that's been put together brilliantly as well, and we have ourselves a tiger by the tail, and that was her words, quote unquote, and I agree with every single one of them. I want to let Josh and Phil talk a little bit more about the product itself, and we're going to start off with just a very quick explanation about what it is, what Promptus actually do, and then we're going to go a little bit deeper into the genesis of that before we start moving forward to look at the value proposition as an investor. So let's start off at the beginning. Let's look at the product and let's look at Promptus. Where did it come from? When did you realize that insurance was such a huge problem? And then how did you create this fit which was so perfect for the market?
Hey, Brian, thank you so much for having us on the show today. Really excited to share our vision. And I preface that question with a story. I worked in the dental industry for around 7 years for my father at his dental practice in Queens, New York. And I was handling most of the claims administration, working with insurance carriers for commercial plans. I was also submitting claims to Medicaid, right? And dental insurance and how it works is incredibly antiquated from a consumer standpoint. First, what I had to do on a daily basis, I had to submit claims. I had to physically write out on a form for patients who had work to get a pre-estimate. On a form, if I would write it in pen and go beyond a box when filling out the information, when I'm mailing this form, the claim would be denied. It took over 3 weeks to process and more than 60 days sometimes to get paid. Now, when you look at that from a consumer standpoint, why we built the product, how we built it, people really want to know 3 pieces of information, right? What's the total cost of my treatment? What's my out-of-pocket going to be? And what is my plan going to pay?
But it's impossible to get that. Like, it's ridiculous. Like, how can we have gone so many years without such simple information being available to us? Literally, you just pray. Like, that's the only place you've got to. That's why I commend you so much for what you put together. But so, did you find it was hard? Like, how did you do it? Because it can't be that simple. It can't be that you just solved it and put it together. Like, and after all these years, everybody else just cocked it up.
Yeah,
Uh,
so what I would say in response to that there is the industry itself is running on a bad premise, and it's running according to very antiquated technology. One of the primary technologies that people are using to still transact these claims when they're occurring is fax machines. So like when we're competing right now, like a large part of the market is running on fax machines. And the other side of it, the entire concept of insuring your dental benefits or of paying for your dental benefits and your dental insurance according to the insurance model, it doesn't make sense. The only reason that it is because when they first started offering dental insurance as an added benefit back about 40 or 50 years ago, they just copied directly what made sense for the healthcare market. But the way that people engage with dental and the way they engage with healthcare is completely different. Healthcare is an expense where you can have hundreds of thousands of dollars of costs that you need to protect against. And insurance, people sort of forget. The word gets so caught up in everything else that's been overcomplicated to the interest of the carriers, is that it like insurance is a risk transference model. You're transferring the risk of me having to pay for $100,000 of cancer treatment by agreeing to pay a set amount, which is on average going to be more than I would spend in a month. But if that bad event happens, I know that I'm covered for it. It's not necessary to insure dental, and insuring dental in the first place includes extra parties that add waste to the system, that add time to the system, that make it more confusing, that make it more complicated, because at the end of the day, the way that people engage with it is just as a preventative treatment. Most people are going in twice a year just to get their teeth cleaned or to get basic procedures covered, and even if they have something which needs to be taken care of, a more expensive or a more in-depth, oral surgery perhaps, plans cap out at $1,000 to $1,500, and you're not going to see that. Even if you have $20,000 of dental work, you're never going to see more than $1,000 to $1,500 of that cost be covered by your plan. So when the actual service that you're paying for the according to the insurance model, you're not getting this transference of risk, and when it's not necessary in the first place, by including this extra step of carriers who a lot of the times they don't even realize that they're unnecessary, but sometimes they do. It just adds time and cost and waste and complexity to the system, which leaves everybody shortchanged, including the dentists, the patients, the employers. It confuses everybody.
So you could see this Mad Max apocalyptic world where it was all destroyed. How did you create this beautiful world whereby you can fix this? Josh.
So, Brian, it really all starts with the business model fundamentally, right? When we think of what insurance is, insurance carriers are collecting a premium and they are paying, you pay your premium, you're good to go. The rest is on the insurance carrier to pay your claims, right? Insurance carriers fundamentally have in their business model the deterrence to not properly pay out claims, right? They want to deny your claims. The more they can deny your claims, the larger their profit is, that the larger their margins are. That's it. And so our business model is really, we're saying for our group clients, you're going to pay for the claims directly, and we're just going to serve as an intermediary piece of software that's just going to process your claims. We have nothing to do with denying them, and our incentive is really just to create the best possible experience. So when you design a business model in that way, the outcomes are aligned with what consumers want, which is timely, prompt information and to use their benefit.
Absolutely. And the thing is, it is that confusion and the speed. I find, especially where it comes to dental, it's the not knowing which is the worst, right? So the quicker and the simpler that you can process everything through in a very simple way, the better it's going to be. And then so you moved from this terrible world to this better world where things are simpler. What about the building of this? How did you actually get started in that and make it what it is today?
Well, so a couple of years ago when Josh and I first got connected, they were, he'd been coming out of a class that was taught by my father, who was a professor at Syracuse University. It's a technology class where part of the assignment was to figure out how to use a new technology to come up with a solution to a business problem. Josh started this podcast by sharing that story about his experience at the dental office and what that was like for him. But when he was working at this, he figured that he could do that by simply overlaying a communication tool, a technology that would allow the employee to communicate directly with like the plan that their employer had set up, and then deliver a payment directly to the dentist. All this could be facilitated and automated in a way which it was not so far. So it came out of a classroom that many of the people that were initially working on it have continued, and they're still working with us today. We were founded by a team of our founding team are a bunch of alumni from Syracuse University, where we went to school, and have been working consistently in solving the problem from when we first started, and it was for a class project 3 years later, where we're transacting with customers, where we're raising money, where we're looking towards how else can we grow this, and what sort of lateral avenues can we explore to make this product even better.
Wonderful. So you took it out of the class, and then you're like, okay, we can create this software. What about the technology that was required to start just to implement it? Where did that begin?
Yeah, that really began like still in the classroom, right? A lot of emphasis on blockchain technology, and really the movement in the industry at its peak in 2018. But we really just started building, and in the spring of 2018 was the class that we were in. This summer, we were off really building our first minimal viable product and trying to get it into market. That product really has changed a lot, naturally, like most products for early stage startups. And originally, we were trying to sign on dentists, right, to our platform. And we changed our model to be more consumer facing, to have our consumers really understand the timely information via our mobile application, and be able to submit claims. And we added in our debit card there. So we took off really that summer.
And what the product looks like today is
Phil,
it's a mobile application that an employee will use when they go to the dentist to understand, all right, this is the procedure that I want to get done. How much is this going to cost me? What is my planned responsibility going to be? How much am I going to have to pay out of pocket? And then they're able to submit claims and see in real time the funds that would be allocated for their employer's contribution to be delivered to a debit card, which is attached to, which we give to every employee. Every one of our members receives a debit card to be able to pay immediately the planned responsibility for a procedure. So there's never going to be a scenario of balance billing where you get a note in the mail weeks later saying that the carrier didn't pay out enough and the dentist is now chasing you down for more cash. So by simply giving that communication, allowing the employee to see based off of whether this dentist is in or out of network, based off of what procedures I'm getting done, based off of my utilization, which is already preloaded into the application, this of this plan in the last year. How much is this going to cost me? They can see that right away, and then render payment based off of that, and make decisions based off of that, without needing to go back and forth or find out weeks later that there's some miscommunication or mismanaged expectations in terms of paying out to the dentist.
And you've obviously got a very strong. By the way, I just love what you do. I just love it. All I want in the world is to make sure that stuff is transparent for me. That's all. I actually think half the stress we have today is because we think something is such and such, and we find out afterwards that it's entirely different, and that such and such was just the way it was laid out, to either because somebody was too lazy to make it done properly, or because they wanted it to be blurry. But what you're doing is you're making it so simple, and you're reducing so much stress at a time where they're going through a highly stressful area. I really struggle with dentists. I actually feel terrible for dentists. Your dad, I mean, God bless him, because anybody who can actually deal with people who are that terrified of pain in an area where they feel the most amount of pain all the time is an absolute saint. So you're already going through, as a consumer, you're going through a highly stressful event. You're walking in the absolute full knowledge that you're going to go through pain. The only thing you're not sure about is what the degree of that pain is going to be. The absolute last thing that you want is not to know where that's going to leave you financially afterwards. You have to be able to plan it beforehand. And did you have any difficulty getting access to the data that would give you an accurate assessment up front, that you could do it in such a short period of time where everybody else was taking so long? Or was it just that that everybody else is just so inefficient it's a joke?
Yeah, I would say that everybody else is pretty inefficient and it's a joke. And it's not like the current solution is designed to keep the consumers fundamentally out of the loop. And I would say, as far as the access of data and how we acquired that was definitely a huge challenge early on. we identified the right network partner to work with our plans, which is Dentamax. And so they gave us everything we were looking for from a data requirement standpoint and network. So that was there from the start. Phil, would you add anything there?
Yeah, I'd add that the groups that we're targeting are smaller in size. We're targeting groups that are between the size of 10 and 200, and our specialty or like a real sweet spot is around those groups with like 50 employees. And for groups of that size, it's really hard for them to get access to claims information from their carriers, because flatly, like the carriers, if they, if they saw how much they were paying, or if they saw how little sense it made for them to be insuring the products that they're insuring, the carriers wouldn't be able to maintain their, the business model. So what we're like, so getting access to a way in which to still help the employer to predict how much, even if they're going to take the responsibility and cut out about 30% of what their typical spend is compared to a fully insured plan, they still need to know on a month-to-month basis, how much should they be budgeting for this? What's a high month going to look like? What's a low month going to look like? So getting access to that data was definitely a process. There are places where you can buy it. The data sets can be expensive. There are, but we were able to find and pull together some groups that, through our partners and through other resources that we accessed, a way to be able to provide that information and give it an actual expectation of how can I budget for the actual cost of the service without worrying about the carrier's profit. So which is hard to do naturally.
And if I could just jump in there,
Please.
Back to the lack of access, right? If you have a fully insured carrier, right, an insurance carrier that does your dental insurance for your company, and you are under the size of 100 employees, you will not have access to that data. Your carrier, your provider will not give you that. How crazy is that?
Yeah,
that is
ridiculous.
Absolutely crazy. But if you're over the size of 100, you get access to that. And why? Because they want to keep you as a client. They want to keep you as a paying customer. And that's what we're fundamentally empowering. We're empowering groups, our clients, our customers, to own their own data, to really see their utilization. And so they could see straight up that it never made sense for us from the start, from the beginning, to ever be originally fully insured.
Do you believe the insurance? I do want to focus on the team in a couple of seconds, and I'm going to bring it back to you both and other folks that are helping you build this. But do you think insurance will ever be changed to be more reflective of what people actually need?
I think that it will. I think that it's receiving enough attention. I think that it's been such a complicated industry for such a long time that trying to fix it was like trying to fix a black box that nobody really knew how to involve, how to interact with. But there is a ton of really positive movement which is happening in InsurTech. There's actually a ton of really positive movement which is happening by carriers as they're trying to improve themselves and trying to advance and just become more modern and provide better experiences and provide better access to healthcare of all kinds. I think that there's going to be a lot of shift, but a lot of that shift is going to have to be away from outdated business models that like insuring a product which doesn't need to be insured, because
it's just
what
silly.
That creates is waste.
It's just silly. I'm not worried about being hit with $1,000 bill. Even if I'm poor, I'm not worried about being hit with $1,000 bill. I'd rather save the money and I'm worried about being hit with a $25,000, $30,000 bill. I'm worried about when I get to 50 or 60 and all of my teeth needs to be fixed, redone, changed, pulled out, done whatever needs to be done. That's the catastrophic event that we don't want to destroy our lives going forward. So I actually, I'll lay into my dirty little secret. Whenever I'm looking at a company and I'm thinking, oof, as a general partner of a fund, if we make more bad decisions than good decisions, it's not good, because there is not many job opportunities for a general partner of a fund when you've lost your limited partner's money. Okay. So as I'm looking at this, I'm thinking, make some good decisions, Brian. And I'm normally looking to say, I have 5 criteria that I look at whenever I'm making an investment decision. And this is also for investors out here. Some of you will have similar criteria. Some of you will have different. Some of you will have none, right? So this will give you a good insight into how a venture capitalist thinks when investing in a company. The first one is execution skills of the founders or founder. The second one is the skill gaps within the team going forward. The third one is direct line of sight to $100,000 a month. The next one is that the market is going to be able to do a $10 million a month in revenue. And then the final one is like, how good are these guys or gals at pitching? Like, are they really good with investors? Because if they can create that vision, and I like, Phil, how you said, if it comes to vision and that kind of stuff, like, that's my bag. That's where I love being and where I love living. So how good are you at being able to get that vision over to later stage investors so you can raise the money you want? And that's our criteria, right? So we're going to look at the team in a second. And obviously I love and I think people who've been listening already can also start to hear where the really strong skill sets are between you both and why it's really important for what you're building. Obviously, the getting to $100,000 a month, easy peasy, because most people who are listening to this are going to be like, yeah, okay, of course they're going to get to $100,000 a month. Of course people are going to want this. They're offering them transparency on their plan, for goodness sake. It makes sense. They're going to really build in users and make sure that those users are successful. Pitching, you guys are great at pitching. So it was funny when I was looking at that fourth criteria, and I'm like, okay, we need to get it to a $10 million a month in revenue market. How does that happen? There was a moment when I thought to myself, this actually could be the Oscar of dental. These guys could find and provide. They get all of the data, build up all of the data from all of these consumers coming through, seeing who's coming through for what dental procedure, and then build up so much data that you're able to say, actually, we have so much data and we have such great AI and we've measured it all on the blockchain so that we know everything that's been happening here. And we've got ML, which has been learning, machine learning that's been learning from everything it's seen so far. Ooh, why wouldn't we offer these plans ourselves? Because we're smarter than the average bear. And that was kind of my first thought. And then my second thought was, ooh, not only would this be really good for this, but literally nobody, except for the 0.0001%, nobody can afford a $20,000 bill when it hits them, right? So they got to work out, how do we get this thing paid back off? So do you turn into a fintech product in the future that can go into that? So I think it would be really interesting. I haven't done this in previous podcasts before, but I think it would be great to go through this process with you. So let's start, if we can, with the founders. You've all been hearing today from Josh and from Phil, who are co-founders. If you can speak to and think about yourself from the investor's mind. And we'll start with Josh and then we work over to Phil. And you obviously convinced me, because I would put the money in 10 times again over without even a hesitation or a doubt. But you're now speaking to investors who don't know you before and they don't know what you do. So we'll start with Josh and maybe talk about your execution skills as a founder, and then we'll go on to Phil and do it. And then let's add on top of that the skills that are required to grow this company and how those skills are covered in the company already. And then after that, let's deal with those two first, and then we'll start moving on to the traction piece. Sound good?
Sounds good.
Sounds great. Yeah, so I would say you would have to have, what I have is a really strong work ethic. But not only that, work ethic is one thing. I think that, especially for any early stage startup, it's really about being very curious early on about your user base, assuming you know nothing, that you're not correct about anything, right? And then constantly testing your messaging, and testing your business, testing your sales, right? And then I think what applies to myself and Phil also is that we're really just not afraid to get out there and start selling. And that's what you need, frankly, early on at day one. If you're getting, every day is a new day, right? When you get out of bed, every day is a new day. You're getting out, cold calling your customers, doing whatever it takes to reach them, to hear what they're going to say, right? Is this something that they're resonating with today? Or no? And what do you need to change? What do you need to change to get them to a yes? So it's that constant trial and error and thinking really creatively and outside the box to overcome some of those obstacles. And with our industry, highly regulated industry, a lot of complexities, a lot of intermediaries, you absolutely need that. So I would say that. And then, my expertise and my professional degrees all around product management, information technology, understanding people, process, and IT. If you could understand people, the who, if you could understand the process that moves those people, and you could provide the technology on top of that to make everything super efficient and streamlined, you could build a great product, a great user experience, and build something very special that people want and people scream about.
Oh, you're giving me shivers. And I'll say before Phil comes on, everybody who listens to this podcast, they know how I feel about user experience. They know that I'm a total convert believer that amazing user experience with good product equals unicorn. You know, a terrible user experience or poor, even mediocre user experience with great product equals failure, right? So I'm entirely aligned with you. And I can tell you the thing that I loved about our first, second, third, all conversations was your focus on sales. It's just, and it sounds ridiculous, especially for people who have not been in the startup space. Most people focus on just raising money. And the idea is we'll raise as much money as we possibly can. And based on that, we're going to be able to have enough money so we can do some sales. And it's just a very poor way of doing it because they spend so much time just only trying to raise money. And I still remember what you said to us is like, the only reason we're coming into your accelerator is because of your focus on sales and growth. Like, that's what you need to prove to us, not as an investor. Like, who cares about investment? If you're going to come in as our partner, you have got to make a difference in our scaling and our growth. That's the key to building a unicorn. So yeah, I echo that 10 times over. Phil, anything to add there?
I would add that, and Josh talked about it, but the ability to bring together a team, to be able to point to a vision, to point to a distant, an object in the future or a destination in the future that no one has seen or no one has been to, and to keep people motivated through confidence, through outcome, through performance over years to be able to continue to move in that direction prior to funding, working purely based off of morale, with morale being your currency. Like that is one of the fact, like I have an enormous amount of confidence in us to be able to perform because of how far we've been able to come as an organization prior to closing our pre-seed. The fact that we were able to get customers in the door, to start serving, to build a product before we could even close our pre-seed. I have a lot of confidence in us to be able to maintain team cohesion, be able to identify places in the future to get to, and then also to continue to think laterally and horizontally, and like all the different parallel or ways in which we can add on to our product, the ways that we can access new material to make it better, and really understanding that, like for anyone who's made rules are made by people, and organizations are made by people. So anything that seems like it, just does, like it can't be done, like starting an insurance company out of college by accessing a market which has been completely impenetrable for decades. Being able to reach out to people within organizations and ask for the things that you need and seek those things that you need, and sort of adaptively respond to what is it looking like, and finding ways around those obstacles. I'd say that being able to think laterally and work with what you have to get what you need, and all within the context of a larger trajectory is really crucial for anyone who's trying to start something at an early stage.
Yeah, I love it. And then who did you bring into the team? So on top of yourselves, who else have you got there supporting you?
Yeah, so we have a fantastic lead developer who runs and has created our backend, responsible for backend architecture. His name is Chi Young Jeffrey Lee, and he has worked as a software engineer for around 10 years. Great. He's just a fantastic leader, really just able to step into situations and clearly allow people to excel in a given project. And also Chris Kamicki, he does our front-end development for our mobile app. He's really responsible for building the mobile app, truly has a heart for front-end development and the problem that we're fundamentally solving. He's building that user experience, for our users. And then also we have another developer, Madhu Jairama, and he is responsible for web app development on the employer-facing side, on our administrative side. And we have a few other security professionals that are working with us for HIPAA compliance, Pratik Paranjabe, Murdala Shavana, and they're the ones who are leading that effort. So, Phil, would you add anyone else there?
I mean, as we're throwing out names, Ninad has been absolutely crucial. He's a brilliant security professional, as Akshay. We could keep going. There's a lot of people that we've been working with, and a large group of both part-time, full-time, and sort of volunteer-based, workers who've been collaborating with us from an early stage.
Yeah, beast team.
I would just say Liam Husman, who's our lead actuarial, he has been absolutely fantastic as well. Really amazing.
This is what I'm saying. So beast teams. So like investors, what I do is not that complicated. Just like you're scoring this out of 10 so far, pretty high scores. Okay, let's move to the traction part of it. And obviously we can forget point number 5, which is pitching to investors, because obviously the guys are awesome at being able to get a message across. They come across extremely genuine, especially if you're watching this on YouTube. They come across extremely knowledgeable. They have crazy domain expertise within their space. And they've got enough energy to be able to drive this thing through, as well as having enough brilliant people around them. That's what investors really want to hear. This is a game of confidence and belief, and that's there. So let's focus on the areas of traction. Let's focus on how we get you from where you are today to $100,000 a month, and then let's look at that new paradigm of how you then take it from $100,000 a month to $10 million a month. What does that look like?
So I would start with that by saying, like, a lot of our activities right now, and part of the reason that we came into the dojo in the first place was because we wanted to scale up our efforts when it comes to channel partner development. We wanted to, like, we operate within a yearly selling cycle, and the vast majority of business is sold during open enrollment, when, which comes around November, where people are renewing or signing, or are engaging with either the same, or they're making their benefits decision for the subsequent year. What we need right now is we need appointments with insurance brokers, general consultants, general agents that are placing benefits like this and helping to advise employers as they're making this benefit decisions, because it's very the first and the second people that are need to be sold on the product to make a sale are not actually anybody within a company. It is the people that are consulting them and the people that are advising them. So Josh has been leading our sales efforts in that front, our partnership development efforts, and activating them, focusing on activating them. So the road to $100,000 is through more broker partnerships, by communicating to them what are the value propositions to them, and what to place the product, why it's a better choice for their clients, why their clients are going to love it, why their clients are going to love them for bringing this offering to them, and then equipping them to be able to place business with everybody that it makes sense to do so.
Boom.
Yeah.
Josh, what you got?
Yeah, I mean, Phil hit the nail on the head there. I would say that, we're at a really nice pace right now. We're signing on 2 to 3 agencies each week. We have agencies that are operating in 8 different states right now. And we have over close to 20 proposals that were put together, more than 2,000 people. And the number is just going up every single day. We're getting more and more quotes by the day. And that's really just coming down to our effort of identifying the right agencies that embody our values and really doubling down on that. So brokers that really want to focus on self-funding, really want to focus on self-funded dental as a strategy to tap into self-funded medical. And the more brokers that you align with there, the more likely we're going to be able to have opportunities to provide values to those type of clients, because at the end of the day, we're tapping into already qualified clients, right? So a broker embodies a certain system of values, and their clients also resonate with those values. So they're probably already self-funding their medical, and they're already thinking in the way that we want them to think. So the conversion process is very, very quick. And that's what we recently discovered. And currently each broker that we're working with really right now it's a one-to-one relationship into the quoting opportunities, and about 300 employees is the average quote size. Sometimes we get ones that are much higher than that, sometimes a little smaller. So everybody can see how this journey is building up, and actually, again, what I love is there's so much of this is about one-on-one interaction with large partners, OEMs, who are then able to sell your product out to the market, which I'm guessing there's going to be some form of revenue share with the brokers, whereby they'll get some benefit from there as well. So it's pretty easy to see how you get to $100,000 a month, right? It's a no-brainer. And once you take some money in, it's even simpler. How do you then, am I far off with potentially being a provider of services? Am I far off with potentially doing loans to companies there? Like, what is that delta between $100,000, $200,000, $300,000 a month and $1 million a month?
So what I'd say for that is that primarily is a matter of scale. It is like as we start to get towards you're correct in saying that it is a revenue share that we're conducting with the brokers, and what we see as our expansion efforts beyond this offering as it is right now is how we start rolling in other benefits lines, like stuff like vision, other ancillary, like almost all ancillary should be self-funded from a starting point. And our primary function is we never want to we don't want to be an intermediary. We want to we want to be we want to build roads, not keep gates. If that's like a helpful way to think about it, we want to be able to build a way for the employer to transact easily and directly with whatever provider, whatever employee that they're working with, without us standing in the middle and moving towards this insured model, which doesn't add value to people for the vast majority of circumstances. So we see, we're already in talks for how we can roll a vision product, which is, often people want to bundle vision and dental together, just like other ancillary lines, and how we can start to offer this to groups that are, to people that are, perhaps not employed, or the different ways in which this product to be offered, apart from our initial employer-employee model. We do see that there's going to be a lot of value to the data that we're generating. There's a lot that could be done with it as we start to, work with it in value. There's a lot that could be done to inform the broker and empower the broker to be able to make helpful decisions when it comes to, designing plans and, just giving them access to every bit of information they could ever want, related to their employee, and also how that data and how usage can start to relate to and affect and reduce costs on higher dollar benefit lines like health. This is I guess in the longest run it becomes a data play with this admin fee, which is keeping us up and helping us to drive growth and drive revenue, but then moving towards a model where we're able to act more predictively and support other benefit lines and help keep costs down in general and just make people healthy.
I think you nailed it. And what's so interesting with what you said between the lines is that, Brian, look, we're going to get all of the data on everybody. We're going to understand the world of dental implications and dental costs more than anybody else on the planet. Nobody else is going to have the types of data that we're going to have. And based on that, it means that we are going to be centrally placed to be able to come out with the most innovative solutions for every single problem that's going to be related with it. We don't need to fix those problems today. What we need to do today is make sure that we have the best machine learning on the planet so that we can get maximum use and maximum output from the data that we're collecting. That's what needs to happen right now. We need to get as many people into the funnel, and we need to meet that those people who are coming into the funnel need to be providing with as much data as possible so we can look at the universe and decide what the universe needs. It's very brilliant. Actually reminds me in some ways of Robin Hood. I know it's a crazy different world for what they did when they started out doing fantasy stock market, which is like a stupid idea. There's nothing there, right? I mean, some people will play, but it wasn't about the fantasy stock market. It was about collecting so much data that they really understood what retail investors wanted better than anyone else. And then it was very simple for them then. They'd say, hey, we're just going to go out there. No fees, none of that messing around. We'll provide an entirely new service that nobody else has done. And then they become one of the fastest growing unicorns on the planet from that moment. And I see a very similar trajectory for you guys as well. I'll leave you with the last word. If I could ask you to please, whoever's email that you would like to give out, just pick an email, whether it's Josh or whether it's Phil, just pick one so folks can contact you, or both if you like. And then finish it with, I won't ask you to do the future back vision whereby you stand 5 years in the future, because I think we've just covered that there. But let's finish it with this. The types of partners and people that you want to contact you, both from an investor perspective and on everything else. Right now, you are building up this partnership from heaven, right? And all of the folks, it's not about, oh, we want to raise money. Can you help us? No, you're going to raise money. That's not a problem. Or, oh, we could really do with some help growing. You're going to grow anyway. This is about the people that are going to be there for you on the next part of this journey. What does that look like? And then I'll let you finish out the podcast there.
Sure. So you could best email us at jjackson@promptus.com, jjackson@promptus.com. And I would say that from a customer, from a partnership standpoint, we're really if you're a next gen advisor and you're listening to this, get in contact with us today. What we're all really about is we share the same values of transparency. We're building a movement here, self-funding for medical, for ancillary benefits. It's here. It's time we all take advantage of it. And we're bringing the technology to that. And that's basically it at the end of the day, is what I would really say there. Phil, what about you?
Yeah, I'd say that, like, again, like our focus is growth, and if anyone listening either, like is an insurtech investor and has, communication or like partnerships with general agents, people that place benefits, that work in that space or work in that area, that's who we want to talk to. We closed our previous funding round, but we will be raising again in the future. And if someone was curious about what that could look like and, what we planned, what our plans are for that, then we could talk about that. But that's, we're really hyper-focused on open enrollment and killing it this year. So.
Come on. That's what I'm talking about right there. That's how you finish a podcast. Okay, listen, it's a pleasure. I couldn't be happier. I feel like a cat that got the cream because we invested in you guys. Any other investors who are interested, start the conversations. You'd be crazy not to. And then folks who are involved and they can help and are all involved in the dental space, these are the types of companies you want to support. So reach out to Josh and he and Phil will be happy to have a chat. Thank you, guys. Thank you. That's a wrap. We're
Thanks
good as gold.
Thanks for having us, Brian.
Thank you, Brian.